thinking as you were speaking, how does a kid from a Protestant liberal family with a quietly inner rebel of a father, how did you open yourself up to the idea of reincarnation? Was it something that just resonated with you? Is it something that was introduced to you? Because evolutionary astrology, as you teach it, is very, it does consider our lives beyond just this life. Mm-hmm. It does look at the growth of our soul from before we were in these bodies and perhaps the direction that we're going afterwards if we make the right decisions now. And so in order for you to be a part of founding a system like that, it means that you're open to the notion that your soul is older than just this body. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think it was that opened you to that notion?
It's a very simple answer for that. Edgar Casey, who was a psychist from early in the 20th century, American Southeast.
Oh yes, hugely influential mystic.
I'm glad that you recognize the name. You know, it's his star is somewhat falling, I think, as far as name recognition goes at this point. But
we have to do something about that.
Oh, we should.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's great that we're talking about him now because he really was huge.
Oh, incredibly powerful and influential. And there was in the 50s or 60s, I don't know the exact date of publication, there was a huge bestseller about him called There Is a River by a gentleman by the name of Thomas Subaru. And a paperback version of that book was sitting on my family bookshelf, and I don't know whether it was my mom or dad who bought it, but it was just there. And one day I picked it up and started reading it. I guess I was 12 years old, and he essentially just tells the evolving story of the soul after lifetime after lifetime, and it just made so much sense to me, and it felt so right. As soon as I read the book, I just took reincarnation to be self-evident. My religious training was, in a congregational Protestant church. There was no reference to reincarnation, but there was a general vibration or attitude of tolerance and openness, and without that fundamentalist arrogance of claiming that we know everything and everything we don't know is wrong. There was none of that. It was a church that was truly more centered on individual experience and spiritual experience rather than the need to be right about everything. Thank God. So I didn't really have any awareness of a clash between being Protestant and being open to reincarnation. As I look back on it, I count myself lucky that nobody got in my face about that. But they were both just kind of two ideas, and I lived with both of them. And let's see, I got to college. I was 18 years old, and kind of fell away from the church. I was swept up in the late 60s kind of thing, and that sort of pop spirituality that was starting to happen then, which was founded in ancient truths, and teachers like Ram Dass, became influential for me, and I was majoring after kind of a false start in business and so on with economics. I'm a second-house chemist, so that didn't last very long.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I switched to religion, and a wonderful course of study in religion, getting my degree in religion. It was wide open, undergraduate work's a little taste of everything, but there was quite a lot of Jungian psychology and symbolism and the psychology of symbolism in general in that, and no reference to astrology, but the relevance to astrology. So all of those threads kind of came together, and I was, by the time I was in college, I was kind of the astrologer of the dormitory, even before I really knew very much about it.
I'm sure that those fellow flatmates, fellow dorm mates remember you well for all the chart readings that you did. That there is something about us that has manifested the whole idea of computers and especially the internet. that there is something in our consciousness that knows that we are connected to everyone and everything, and that the internet is a physical manifestation of what is happening on a level of spirit. Because what is happening on spirit, it is my belief, must manifest in the physical.
Yes, yes.
And so, who can say that the IBM guy isn't doing work that is just as spiritual as anybody? I'm reminded also, I have a student who is an accountant, and he loves numbers. He sees deep spirituality in his work.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think it's the
like
intention.
Pythagoras.
Yes, yes, yes. There's a lot to be said for intention.
Absolutely. And anything can be made sacred with the right attitude.
As humanity, from a communal understanding of ourselves towards individualism, an individual understanding of ourselves, whereas before the family was the center of society, now it's the individual is the center of society.
Yes.
But along that process, as you were speaking, I was thinking, along that road from family to individual, it's created some wounds. It sounds like we have been hurt in the process.
Yes, yes. We're on the cusp of the age of Aquarius, as far as I'm concerned. I think of the age of Aquarius beginning long about the early 1900s, early 20th century. I point to two things: the publication of the special theory of relativity, a quintessential work of genius, and the Wright brothers lifting off from Kitty Hawk. One of my favorite, people get into this fussy argument about, well, the actual constellation boundary, we're not going to hit the age of Aquarius until 2480 or something like that. And I can attack that argument in a lot of ways, but my favorite way to say it is we went from Kitty Hawk to the moon in 66 years. Does that not sound like the cusp of an age?
It sounds so Aquarius.
Yeah, doesn't it?
All those things that you mentioned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, the relevance of this to your comments is that Pisces is the mystical sign abstractly. So the raindrop lands in the sea and becomes one with the sea, the individual soul dissolving into the divine, metaphors like that. And that's good Piscean stuff. But we also have the idea of individuals losing their individuality in collectives. It's the same idea, but just kind of milder and lower. So in my view, as the age of Pisces began, we have, for one example, the rise of the Roman Empire and that exponential increase of it. So we have people in Turkey and people in Spain, very different cultures, different languages, different mythologies. I'm a Roman, I've dissolved my identity into that larger sea, of Romanness. And the very dark side, I'm a Nazi, I was just following orders, and that's the dark side of it too, the loss of individuality. I've dissolved into this family, it begins to blend with what you were saying. I've dissolved into this couple. And okay, that's Piscean stuff. But Aquarius is the age of the individual. And so we find, as we've crossed this cusp, families are breaking down, marriage is much less stable, everything is about the individual. The dark side of that, of course, is just flat-out selfishness and self-importance and fragmentation and alienation, and there's all sorts of toxins. But the bright side of it is we're all working out our own destinies. And, I don't need to be a Forrest. I need to be Stephen Forrest and try to figure out what that means. I don't need to be, in my case, an American. I need to be a citizen of the world.